God's Wisdom for a Fair and Just World by Dr. Jim Richards. Chapter 9, Nation Will Rise Against Nation. In Matthew 24, verse 7, Jesus warns of wars and rumors of wars. Then he describes two different types of conflicts, nation against nation and kingdom against kingdom. Kingdom against kingdom is more like war as we understood it in the 20th century, i.e., one country fighting another country. However, warfare has changed dramatically over the past century. Recent wars have proven that a superpower cannot be overthrown by a nation-to-nation confrontation. The best way to defeat a superior power is from within. Since Vietnam, America has lost militarily for a few simple reasons. The Vietnamese knew American media would win the war for them. They were more than willing to sacrifice thousands of their own to accomplish their objective. They knew the American news media would shame Americans into eventually pulling out of the war. The second factor was our government would not let us win the war, even though it was within our means to do so. Ridiculous rules of engagement and illogical limitations on where we could attack did nothing but prolong the war. But why win a war when it was making billions of dollars for your constituents, who would then use their money and influence to keep you in office? We lost Vietnam internally to greed and propaganda. The Ming Dynasty ruled China for centuries. They were the most secure nation in the world. The Forbidden City, which I have visited, was an impenetrable fortress. It was the most protected national capital in the world. It protected their emperor, his family, and the royal court. The Great Wall, which was over 5,000 miles long, was their defense from the barbarian hordes to the north. As a nation, they were impregnable. Invasion into the country, and especially the capital, was unfathomable. Their collapse was not, however, the result of a superior foreign power. The destruction of the Ming Dynasty came about because of a corrupt military leader who took bribes from the enemy in exchange for passage through the Great Wall. America has its faults, as do all endeavors that rely on the integrity of people. Until people are perfect, no government will be perfect. I've traveled to many countries throughout the world, talking to citizens and government officials. In most developing nations, the corruption is unimaginable. The poor are desperately oppressed. In many countries, leaders are wealthy and corrupt. There is no such thing as equal justice. The corruption happening in America and many first world nations is not aimed at making better nations. It certainly is not to make our streets less violent or to create a better constitution. What is happening in countries around the globe is a game of deception. Through the corrupt news media, with the support of corrupt politicians, the ignorance of our citizens is being exploited. This has gone on in third world countries for centuries, but the deception happening in first world nations today is broadcast worldwide by corrupt news organizations. A few small domestic terrorist factions, a complicit media, and corrupt politicians are being used by global elitists working a far more vile agenda. Massive global violence is not designed to destroy a country completely. What is occurring in numerous countries is intended to weaken the government, destabilize the nation by destroying unity, and collapse their economy to create such desperation and suffering that all the nations of the world will surrender to the globalist elitist in order to be saved. All it takes to accomplish this is greedy, power-hungry ideologues who intend to eliminate all knowledge of God from the world. Every citizen living in a country where there is rioting, social unrest, and economic instability must remember that deceit is the tool. Socialism is the way, but neither of these is the goal. These are only the delivery systems. The goal is a godless world controlled by a handful of anti-God elitists. Jesus told us of the tools and strategies that would be used to accomplish these godless pursuits. Since we know the disease, we know the cure. Today, if believers will actually stand for Jesus more than political figures, put godly values ahead of political correctness, walk in love according to God's word more than wokeness, we will be the standard that changes the world and restores true justice.